Hey guys, Ryan Dossey, and in today's video I wanted to follow up on my previous one with the actual changes we're making in our wholesaling business with where we're at in the market. Let's dive right in. In my previous video, I talked about how we're going from more of a seller's market towards a buyer's market. Particularly if you're wholesaling houses, this is going to get important because there's going to be more opportunities. Now, I'll link to that video above in case you're watching this on YouTube, but I did kind of want to add just a little bit more to that with two quick points before we dive into actionably how we're going to find buyers for our wholesale deals through 2022, 2023, and beyond. There's two things that we're watching really closely. The first one is what percentage of ARV we're paying for our deals. When I started back in 2014, we used the 65% rule, meaning we'd go 65% minus repairs minus what we wanted to make is the most that we would pay for a house. Lately, probably since 2018, we've been using the 75% rule. Now, I know guys in hotter markets that are 80, 85, even 90%. We're not playing that game and never have. One of our key focuses has always been on getting really good deals. That being said, we're actively monitoring the properties that we choose not to keep or flip ourselves, the ones we wholesale. What are our buyers looking for? Is 25% margin still good? Are they wanting 30? So just kind of be really mindful of that. The last thing you want is to be getting good deals at 75%, but nobody wants your wholesale deals because they're looking for 65%. The second just kind of quick point that I want to make, if you're like myself and you're not just a wholesaler, you're also buying and holding, you're also flipping properties. That's to make sure you don't take the temptation of really skinny, thin deals. There's going to be more opportunity, even likely on the MLS, but make sure you don't sell yourself on doing something really thin. I had one of the investors in CCF reach out to me about a deal they were contemplating taking down. They were going to tie up $250,000 and were hoping that they'd make $25,000 on the deal. Only 10% margin, in my opinion, is simply not enough to justify tying up and risking that kind of cash. A lot of these deals are the deals that a lot of investors did and were doing and were getting away with. But I think personally where we're at in the market, you want to make sure you've really got some meat on these and that you're keeping your cash for these solid ones that come to you where you can make 25-30% margin on these deals. Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets actually had a post that I really agreed with regards to flippers and the burr guys of the market was doing a lot of heavy lifting for some people. I'd see posts on Bigger Pockets of hey, I bought this property, I went over budget, and I still made $100,000. Those days might be behind us. So make sure you're getting good deals and controlling your costs. Don't sell yourself on compromising to get an itty bitty deal just to get in on the action, if that makes sense. So without further ado, I'm gonna hop straight into PropStream on my laptop here and show you how we're gonna be selling our wholesale deals if our regular buyers don't want them. This is gonna be hyper local. I'm gonna walk you through what we're doing and why. I do have an affiliate link for PropStream that I'll drop in the comments as well as on the description in case you're not using them. They're $100 a month. I've used them for years now, and I'm a big fan for this kind of stuff. One quick caveat that I'll throw out that they probably don't love me throwing out, I strictly use them as a data provider. I'm not skip tracing through them. I'm not using them as a CRM. I'm not buying my mail through them. It's kind of they're super solid on the data side. There's other tools we use for the other stuff that have specialized in that one thing. For example, on the CRM side, Resimply's world's better than trying to use, features in here as a CRM or something. All right, let's dive right in. So we just got a deal in St. Louis, Missouri, Vinyl Village, nicer place. It's one we're probably going to take down. But I wanted to show you what I would do to sell this property if my regular list didn't want it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look for hedge funds. Really straightforward on how to do this, but we're going to look in the zip code that we've got the deal. We're going to click filter right here. We're going to go down to property characteristics and make sure we're looking for the same kind of place. This is an attached townhouse condo thing. So we're going to look for those two combos. We're going to hop down here into owner occupied, and we're going to do no. We're going to scroll down here to ownership info. Ownership type, we're going to do corporate. And we're also going to do MLS status sold. In my experience, a lot of the funds are buying on market, and they're paying way more than other investors. So if you're looking to maximize the return on a wholesale deal, this is going to be how you find these guys, as well as like their gatekeeper. Most of them have a realtor that kind of all their stuff goes through. Not going to get into politics with you of like, should you sell deals to funds or not? Simply going to show you how to do it. You can make your own decisions from there. On sold, I like to do a range of like, we'll do January 1st, 2020 to, like now. So we're looking at properties that sold on the MLS, ones that were for sale. And then also we're going to, in ownership info, we're going to look at the ones that own, say, like 20 properties or more. So we can see in this particular zip code, we've got 70 plus. Let's just look at this first one that popped up, for example, and see if we got a winner. We're typically looking for like kind of the goofy LLC names. Often they're out of state. Yeah, this is a perfect example of it. FKH SFR Propco K LP in Georgia. This is definitely a fund, not somebody who's local. You can use kind of PropStream's linked properties thing here and see this says they own 43,000 properties. One like caveat I want to throw out, take this with a grain of salt because it's based off of the mailing address. There are groups that are like registered agent providers that anybody who set up an LLC that used that provider, it's going to show them all as linked, even if they're not owned by the same person. So just kind of be cautious of that. So what I would do in this instance, I'd hop on over here into MLS details, scroll down and look at, okay, who was the agent that was involved in this? Simply Google that guy, call him, and try to get the intro. In my experience on PropStream, they typically have the listing agent, not necessarily like the sales agent. So I would reach out to this guy and say, hey, I noticed you listed a deal that I think sold to a fund. I have a property that I'm interested in selling to them as well. Could you put me in touch with the agent that represented the buyer on that deal? They may say yes, they may say no. You could go the other route of, hey, look, if you're able to put me in touch with them, I'm happy to pay you a commission on this thing. So that's typically how you're going to get in front of a hedge fund. Now, one thing that I do want to note, you do typically have to go through that realtor. You're not going to be able to like Google that address, call the front door, get the owner of the fund who's going to personally like cut you a check for the place. Funds have very strict like rules, processes, and procedures for the folks that have invested in them, and you kind of have to play by their rules. On that note as well, they can be a little bit goofy. The ones in our markets typically want like a 7 to 10 day inspection window. They'll estimate their own repair costs in that. It's not like you're just selling the property as is for cash instantly. It's a done deal. So there can be a little bit of risk there strictly if you're wholesaling. So that's kind of like step one. We're going to look at the funds. If that doesn't work, I'm going to hop back in here in PropStream. I'm going to leave single family in here, but I'm going to cut out the MLS data. I'm going to leave the corporate data, and we're going to start with that. So something similar that I could do is hop back in here into ownership info, and maybe I take the guys who own, say, a max of 5. But I can go through this same list and look for like the mom and pop landlords that potentially own properties in that area to see if they're interested in selling. Comically, this first one I clicked on actually looks like it's the same fund as the other one. So they would be probably a great candidate for us to move this property to if it wasn't one we were going to keep. So here's a different one, kind of in that same search. Tom Howard, local guy, lives out of town. We look at linked properties. He's got 4. Looks like he's somewhat of a buy and hold guy, kind of owns these nicer looking properties. It looks like he's got a commercial deal and a mobile home as well. So, this is one that I would take this LLC and I would go over into open corporates. Realistically, like this one looks pretty straightforward. It looks like it's the Tom Howard LLC. I'm willing to bet behind the Tom Howard LLC is Tom Howard. But we could go into this one. We're looking at the one specifically that's in Missouri because we know that's where the property is. And we're going to look for the registered agent. Interestingly enough, it actually looks like it's somebody different. It looks like it's this Daniel J. Lauderdale guy. So that is who we would go and skip trace, call, and see if they're potentially interested in selling. We use Skip Genie for all of our skip tracing, but effectively all you do is put in the first name, last name, the address, and it'll spit out possible phone numbers or emails. The conversation on this, guys, is really, really straightforward. I'm not a big cold caller. I don't find it pleasant, even though I've done it in the past. Our approach with this is, hey, I'm looking to get in touch with the person who runs the Tom Howard LLC. I've got a property actually right near yours, the same zip code in O'Fallon. I'm just curious if you're buying more. If you are, awesome, I can send it over. If not, totally cool. In my experience, a lot of you guys kind of run in similar circles. Do you know anybody else that's looking in the area? Oh, you do? Great. Oh, you're not? Okay, totally cool. Wish you the best of luck. Have a nice day. On to the next one kind of a thing, right? This is a little bit more manual. Like what I talked about in that video, like you ideally have a buyer's list, you've shot it out, none of those folks have taken it. This is what you're doing to potentially move that deal to somebody else, right? You're gonna put more work likely into selling your deals than you have in the past. Worst case scenario, you've gone through the possible funds, you've gone through the properties owned by absentee owners, owned by corporates, you've looked at landlords. Something else super simple you could do is snag this zip code, literally hop on over to Zillow, throw that sucker in, and go for rent. You've gone through, called these, right? Some of these are probably property managers, some of are individuals, like you've exhausted all that. Okay, what else can we do to potentially move this property? All right, so let's say for the sake of conversation that I've got a deal in like this little neighborhood. You can use this draw tool right here in PropStream to click and drag and literally draw like a shape around it. Now I will warn you, like it's a little finicky as far as like completing the shape goes to get it to search. But say we've got this list here of 494 properties. All we would do is simply click that, add it to a list, then go over into our list, take that group, check this box, click export out, and then run that through something like Skip Genie. Similar to what we talked about before, the conversation on these is really simple. Like, hey, I'm under contract to buy a house that I was planning on flipping in your neighborhood. But I actually realized it doesn't need that much work. And I'd rather it go to like, somebody than me putting it on the market for like a fund or something like that to buy. Do you know anybody that's looking to move? I can't tell you guys the number of times we've sold properties to neighbors or friends of family of somebody that lives in the neighborhood. Like on our projects, one of the things we do is we always stick a sign in the yard. The amount of times that sign has sold the place before we've even listed it, I can't count. So kind of quick recap on these three. Hit up the funds, hit up the other landlords in the neighborhood. Worst case scenario, that sucker's not moving. I'm literally gonna go through and call neighbors and hey, what friend do you have that you want to live by you? I've got a house that they should check out. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. This is a role in our company that we're actually expanding upon. Historically, dispositions have been really easy. Like, hey, we've got a deal, people jump on it. This is what we're preparing for in the event that starts to get a little bit more difficult. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you got value out of it. Hopefully this month we'll crack 10,000 subscribers. Thank you guys for all the support. Talk to y'all next time.